Good afternoon. और जोर से बोलो sir, please. Good afternoon. Thank you so much. So first of all, thanks AIM for conducting such a wonderful session. A lot of insightful, inputs that we got from all the panel discussions and all that. Great lunch, as they say in Sanskrit, Annadata Sukhi Bhava. Lovely food everybody had. So thanks to the entire value chain of people who provided the food for us. Thank you so much. With that, I'll get started. So just to make sure all of us are active, what we will do is we'll start with a quick rapid fire, okay? And then the panelists also had good lunch. All of you also had nice lunch. So we want all of you to stay active. So we have about 5 questions, quick rapid fire questions. I will start with you, Sujit. What is the most weird expansion of the word GCC that you have heard?
Well, actually, I've heard more than one, but I think the funny one, which I heard from a much younger generation when I was asking my kids and their friends, do you know what GCC is? And they said, Global Chai Center. I said, well, yeah, that's not a bad guess, but
Yeah.
not quite. And the other ones I've heard is I've heard golf competition committee,
Nice. Cool. Thank you, sir. Okay, over to you, Anuja. What's the coolest feedback that you have received from your Gen Z team members?
Well, actually, I've received many feedbacks from them. This particular one was after a long day, which wasn't very long as per my definition, but long as per the Gen Z definition. And the person who gave me the feedback said, have a life.
Have a life.
And then did the fingers like this and said, yo.
Nice. Okay. Tilak, over to you now. What's growing faster, your talent pipeline or your Excel sheet of KPIs?
At this stage, I am very pleased to say it's the talent pipeline, because we're pretty new, the Innovation Capability Center of Takeda. We are about a year and a half old. So I remember in January last year, we started with 5. Now it is 444 when I left Bangalore. So talent, people.
Excellent. Thank you. Now over to you, Arun. Do you need more dashboards or just better eyesight to see the real problems?
I think we need both.
You need
right?
both?
I'll give you an analogy in the Google terms. Think Google Maps as a dashboard. And in my family, when they're not able to rightly navigate, it's the eyes which captures and says that this is not working. So make Google work. So you need both, complementing each other to solve complex problems.
Lovely. All right. The next question is about our next-gen workforce. Are they more innovative than their senior colleagues? Tilak?
No.
No, they are not. Okay.
I will protect ourselves because we were innovative enough. It is just that we lack the tools, which they have right now. But I'll just give it to them that they are probably, the risk appetite is more than ours. So they experiment more.
Sounds good. Arun?
Yeah, maybe if I say yes, it's a career limiting move. Right? If I say no, they'll say we are biased. But talking to so many Gen Z colleagues, even here in the AIM, I know just when I finished my presentation, there were 3 or 4 Gen Z, college grads which said, hey, great presentation, but these are 2-3 technologies of Google you should have called out.
Wow.
They are much ahead in the curve. So
Nice.
Regardless of that, yes, they are super talented.
Wonderful. Okay. The last question. Our Gen Z workforce lack commitment and show a sense of entitlement. You agree or not? Anuja?
That's a difficult one. I will now take it as I'm talking about my home. Definitely, yes. The sense of entitlement starts from the home. And then when I'm assuming these people come to the work, the sense of entitlement remains. I don't know if my seniors said the same thing about me. I hope not. But yes, looking at home, sense of entitlement is definitely there.
Cool. Sujit, what about you?
So I think it's a mix, right? There are current generation folks who have sense of entitlement and maybe not so much commitment. There are ones that we've seen who has commitment but or rather doesn't have commitment and doesn't feel entitlement. So I think the trick is to find out who's got what combination, and then make it work.
Lovely. Okay, one round of applause for these people who were very sportive in answering all these questions, right? Thank you so much. Okay, now we go to the core topic. I hope all of you are awake. Can you say yes? Lovely. Okay. Right. I'm still very old school, so I need a paper and everything to talk. Okay. So now we'll start. Okay, so I'm sure many of you would have heard that Sam Altman made a statement a couple of days back saying that some of his engineers have been offered $100 million as joining bonus. But companies का revenue नहीं होता ना इतना, so they're paying $100 million as joining bonus for attracting their talent. Okay, it's beyond the $100 million, right? Personally, what I think is that there are two aspects to this one, right? One is the Gen AI and AI talent is super critical. Okay, that's one aspect. The talent part is very critical, right? The next thing is the technology itself, whether it is, AI analytics, whatever we have, all the upcoming technology trends that we are getting. So what is in it for us from that, and what type of metrics can help us, become better in these areas, right? So first I'll talk about the talent part, right? Talent as a strategic asset, not as a headcount. What are the metrics related to talent that you think are very applicable for us as such in the current situation as such? Okay, so I'll greet you first, Anuja. Go ahead, please.
So, talent as in, so when you were talking about talent, the first thing which came to my mind was when I had just joined the corporate world, thinking of rising the corporate ladder, my manager at that point of time said that you're as good as your team is. Absolutely. Applying it to the GCC world, we're as good as the talent in GCC is. No more, no lesser than that. So it's very important to see what talent we have, and the counters outside are also talking about how people can be trained and developed, how can you screen CVs through AI, etc. But talent is definitely one very important thing. Some key matrices around that, and I'm sure all of you may have already heard about it or already incorporated it. Two key buckets as in acquisition and management. Acquisition is just the cost to hire, the time to hire, the hiring time of diverse candidates, the offer conversion rate. In GCC, we have actually started seeing that offer drops do happen at quite a rapid pace, so offer conversion rates as well. And in retention, in management, is the engagement index, which we have, or number of hours spent on training. These are, again, quantifiable things which we could do, engagement index, and there are organizations which help you to see how much your people are engaged. A couple of things which are coming up. I don't know how we are going to calculate it and etc. But a couple of conversations which I've started hearing is a skill gap matrix, which is if we want our skills to be here for our talent and they're here, what is the gap? And then make a plan to cover the gap. Or a culture index. We did hear yesterday that emotions cannot be measured. So one would wonder how culture could be measured. But that's an important thing which people have started talking about. Like the values in Fidelity are be brave, be curious, be compassionate, be bold. So how can we measure people that, are they being bold? I mean, now you cannot put a wire and measure if people are bold or not. AI cannot measure it. But the conversations happening on a culture survey, culture index, skill gap matrix, etc. as well. So I see these more evolving rather than the traditional cost to hire, time to hire, etc.
Lovely. Thank you, Anuja. Over to you, Sujit.
So I think we all agree that the premises of a lot of the success that we're seeing, especially with GCCs in India, is the talent factor, right? But I think now we have the opportunity to kind of really up-level that. And if you look at companies like ours, we are investing disproportionately towards that. But if you look at some of the metrics, for example, internally at Snowflake as well, right? So a lot of the things that Anuja mentioned obviously are in play. But we also measure something called, completion of trainings or certifications. Because, you can have metrics that says, 8,000 people started this training, but how many of them finished it, right? That's a good indication to say, is your mechanism working? Do you need to relook at it? But I'll tell you another thing, my own experience. So recently, everybody in the company, including the leadership folks, had to go through an experience where we were interacting with an AI model, a persona-driven AI platform, where we had to handle things like objection handling, and obviously it was related to what the platform is capable of. And we had to get a minimum passing grade of 80% to get passed to the next level. And the report goes to your manager at all levels. Sure. So, things like that, which means that if I've completed it, no matter how many attempts I took, and to be honest, in this room, I took about 6 attempts to cross
Yeah,
80%, right?
Sure.
But you know, if it's completed, that means somebody achieved 80% attainment. And that's a good way to kind of drive it, irrespective of measuring it.
Absolutely. Well said, Sujit. I want to give one example from Harman as well, right? We have this, of course, we have trainings and assessments and all that, right? But one of the aspects that is always overlooked is your strategy, your 5-year, 10-year strategy, right? Everybody, the people at the top will know, but it doesn't percolate down at all. So what we did is we have a gamified assessment thing that we have created. So people learn a lot about the strategy. And I got some mails even yesterday from some of our lower rung engineers that they really understood the strategy much better by taking that assessment. We had all the constraint that you cannot do it more than twice and things like that. So people were serious. Of course, they will talk to their friends to help, which is okay. But at the end of the day, they're able to crack it, right? So that's very nice. All right. Okay, let's now go to the next topic on the metrics for that are relevant from a tech and AI perspective. I'll start with you, Arun. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So I'll tell you the Google context here, right? So in Google, every Googler is supposed to treat himself or herself as a Google in himself, right? What it means is the metrics is beyond what mundane job you're supposed to do. For example, if there's a data engineer, okay, you're supposed to do XYZ, you have an OKR set. But in Google goes beyond, right? They say in Google, for example, they give you something called as a 20% project. So even though I am from a Google Cloud fraternity, I'm allowed to spend 20% of my time in a Google search or a YouTube, something which I'm passionate about, something which I know I can contribute. And that also becomes a metric for not only my success, for organizational success. In fact, I'll tell you a small project which most of us don't know, Gmail. I'm sure we all know Gmail. So Gmail was an offshoot of a 20% project where few engineers were given the chance to go and co-develop something like this, which they never thought they'll make it as a public product. So that is how the metrics evolve in Google. You are doing much more beyond your current job, helping you innovate, helping you fail fast, but ultimately, building your career.
Lovely. Thank you, Arun. Okay. Tilak, do you have a point of view on this?
Yeah, I think, a lot of these, what Anuja, Sujit, Arun, they said, it kind of covers it all. But I think I'll just take a stab at how you are measuring your GCC's outputs, because that directly relates to how you're measuring what your talent is doing.
Correct.
So there is something that we are doing here in Takeda Innovations, which is called measuring the innovation velocity. Okay. When I say innovation velocity, it is how fast are you converting the ideas into solutions, because that's where the engineers, the AI experts, they come into play.
Sure.
And so that conversion is being tracked, is being monitored in terms of the speed of ideas to solutions, the scalability of the solutions itself, the adoption rate of those solutions, and how you are being able to repurpose existing IP for other products or other purposes. So all of these things are measured, and as that gets reported, you are changing the whole paradigm. You are then not measuring output, you are measuring impact that your talent is driving for the enterprise. I think that's quite a game changer that all the GCCs are now going through.
Very well said. Thank you, Tilak. Okay, next question is strategic alignment. Are you moving the needle for the business? How can GCCs showcase their alignment to enterprise OKRs and strategic priorities? That's number one. Are there effective ways to track how GCC initiatives directly impact revenue, customer experience, or market expansion? This is for you, Sujit.
Yeah, so, today when you look at the GCCs operating in India, many of them, right, more than ever before, are actually, and Anuja and I were discussing this, right? I think earlier the metrics was, let's measure activities. But now it is more about let's measure the outcomes. And I'm going to now add what Tilak said, right, which is measure impact. So that's one step above outcome. So I think that's a healthy way of looking at it. But we see a lot of GCCs in India building, let's say, data products from scratch in India, right? The teams in India have built it from scratch. They're obviously leveraging technologies from several other players such as ourselves. But the fact that they're able to conceptualize it and build it out of here with relevance to the global market, I think is a great measure, right? And today, I think the question that GCC should ask themselves is, are we doing something like that? Or should we start that journey, and how quickly can we get there? And the minute you start doing things like that, then the relevance of what you're doing is completely at a different paradigm, right? Then you become such a valuable part of the global organization that they can't do without it.
Absolutely. Well said, Sujit. Tilak, you want to add any point on top of that?
Yeah, I think it is. It's important that how we are measuring this and how we are contributing to this. So there was an initial, as we started with GCCs, it was like moving the needle for the internal metrics. You wanted to move that to a positive. You wanted to make that better. But I think right now it is more moving the needle for the enterprise objectives. And how do you do that is when you co-create, co-invent. For that, what you have to do is you have to own the KPIs that the business units have. So if I talk from a pharma parlance, the entire value chain of pharma, if your GCC embeds itself into that value chain, then you start moving the needle because you are aligned, or your delivery is aligned to what the BU deliveries are, what the BU priorities are. Sure. So that's really one way to move the needle for the enterprise. And as we were already speaking about, as you move into measuring these impacts that is being then driven by GCCs, then it becomes a very different narrative, and you actually start moving the needle with enterprise.
Very well said. Thank you, Tilak. Okay, now let's go to the next question. Composite scorecards, a holistic GCC's maturity index. Are GCCs adopting composite scorecards that blend efficiency, innovation, talent, and strategic impact into a unified performance dashboard? What does future-ready GCC scorecard look like? Anuja, over to you.
Okay, thank you for that question. Look like, I will also just start with how probably it used to look like 10 years before, as in there was a lot of focus on cost, and we thought that is our impact, which we bring to the organization, is that we get the cost down. So if you remember in your younger days, the matrices were evolving around cost per person, cost per transaction, cost of the office, occupancy cost per head, etc. Then it evolved to also include a bit of activity as well. The conversation which Sujit was alluding to, that the activity came in there, number of applications processed, number of reconciliations performed, number of technology tools on which we worked on. And now where we are in a state where we are not, we are obviously talking about cost, that's an important element even now, but we're talking about the value, we're talking about the impact, we're talking about the outcome. So that shift is happening. May not have happened 100%, but that shift has started in our thought process as well, in our mindset as well, that it is not the activity which we need to reward, it is the outcome or the impact which we have to reward.
Absolutely.
And this is something which we should also think like as a GCC industry, that whatever we recognize or reward, we actually get the same outcomes from our team. So having a composite scorecard is helpful, but it's also helpful to understand what are we going to do on the basis of on that scorecard. We also have to start thinking the actions which we will take. Okay, cost per hire, got it, it's a very nice one. But what actions are we going to take for it? Like say for instance, like my team does a bit of, we were talking about some transaction monitoring in FCC. My team does a bit of transaction monitoring for communication surveillance. How many, when we started, our focus used to be how many alerts did we monitor? We were like, okay, if somebody monitored 100 per day, what do I do with it? Then we found out how many are the false positives in it. Because that's where the technology or the AI can come and say, why do we have false positives? Let's reduce, because that's how we will reduce our cost, and that's where the impact would come. Now the thinking is coming to, why do we have those alerts first? What are we doing wrong in our culture, in our communication, in our hiring of the people, that we have so many comms alerts coming up to say that we shouldn't have discussed about a policy over email, or we shouldn't have emailed it outside our network, etc. So the entire focus starts to change on that basis of the scorecard. The third phase, which I hope will come, and all of us will be instrumental in that third phase, is that these scorecards cannot be different than our parent organization. We are the business. We love to call ourselves as GCC, golf competition, golf. Yeah, the
Chai
golf,
center.
Yeah, we've heard many full forms. But yes, we love to call ourselves as GC, but we are also the business. We should not treat ourselves as an organization which is 10,000, 15,000 miles, whatever number of miles away. Our scorecards cannot be different than our parent entity scorecards which are there. The decision, the actions which we have to take should come from this composite scorecard, which will actually help us to drive the value, which will help us to get a seat on the table and actually not be called as a GCC, but maybe just the business in a different location.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well said, Anuja. And also, it's all very company specific also, right? You cannot have one metric that all GCCs can sit and track. So it's very company specific as well. Okay, very nice. Thank you so much for all the insightful points that all of you made. I'm now going to spend the next minute or so to summarize what the panel said. And then we'll also open up for a couple of questions if it is possible. We are 2:31, maybe another 4 minutes to go. I work for a German company. That's why I'm too specific about the time, okay? So don't think, why is this guy too cheeky about time? Okay, so I'll start with the key summary points from our panelists, right? I'll start with you, Arun. So what Arun essentially says is that GCC must focus on innovation, building products, and more importantly, building careers. I think that's the key summary of and substance of whatever he said. What Sujit says is that GCCs in India have the opportunity to bring AI to data and lead the world in innovation unconditionally. I don't write much, so I'm finding it difficult to read my own handwriting, okay? So what Tilak says is that next chapter for GCC is about doing the right thing at the right speed with the right impact. I think that's the key operative thing, right? Right impact is the most important thing. And Anuja, what you say is that GCC should be the leader and must try to be the business itself, no longer, playing the back end and all that, okay? I have not spoken much, but what I feel is that in Harman, we use this term very often, this catchphrase called do basics brilliantly. Are you getting it? Say yes. So do basics brilliantly. It's very simple, but if you do the basics brilliantly, a lot of things, your foundation is actually set very well, and then you can build on top of that. If you don't have a good foundation, you know what will happen, right? So the second point that I want to say is that hopefully GCC's value is seen beyond cost, and maybe in the future, GCCs may be a headquarters itself, right? Not entirely impossible. At some point of time, if the value that the GCC brings is so high, we can be the we can be the headquarters itself, right? That's also not, you cannot. You can always think that is always possible in the front, in future. The last point I want to say is that GCC should start playing in the front foot. I know our Indian players are playing very well in England, so they are all playing in the front foot. I hope the GCCs also will play from the front foot and make a big impact for the country as well. So with that, I will conclude this session. And now, do we have time for a Q&A?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Okay, go ahead, please.
If you have questions, please put your hand up in the air.
I think the hot topic, and I'll kick it off from here, is, what's the next version of the title GCC? What's it going to be?
Yeah, maybe we need to have a better word, right? So, okay, go ahead, questions, please.
As of now, there's no one with a question. Anyone with a question, an observation, any points, feel free to put your hand up. We shall have someone come up to you with the mic.
If there are no questions, that means you are sleeping. I'm sorry.
There's
there's a hand
question,
there. Yeah,
yes.
sure. Go ahead.
Absolutely concur with what Anuja said, that eventually we have to be in sync with what the corporate strategy is. The GCC cannot have a separate KPI, separate measure of success as compared to what the organization is looking at.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for bringing it out, Anuja. That's the observation, no questions. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Is that all? By the way, I'm doing the moderator role for the first time, so I'm enjoying it. Maybe I'll do it more often.
No, I think you're doing a fantastic job as well. Isn't he doing a fantastic job at being a moderator, yeah?
Cool, thank you so much.
We still have another 5 minutes just in case you all want to throw in another one line before we leave. Anybody? Any observations from your end?
Go ahead, please.
No, on a lighter note, they were saying, Gulf Capability Center or something like that. In Google Inside, we have a confusion because when I say I'm from the GCC, they say Google Cloud Consulting. I said, no, it's Global Capability Centers. So just wanted to add the fun element there.
Yeah, and my boss who sits in Bermuda, so I had to tell him, hey, I'm going here on this day. And he said, captive? You're a captive? I had to really explain him that don't focus on captive, focus on the word global. I think that's all what we should also be focusing on is being global and not siloed here in India, or if we have any other location as a part of our strategy, then just focusing on that.
Yeah, and just to get rid of that confusion of Gulf versus golf, we call ourselves Innovation Capability Centers.
A good one, innovation center.
Preempted that.
But I think Gulf Corporation is also, that's the original GCC is actually Gulf Corporation Company. So a lot of times when I interact with my colleagues in the US who are not part of, let's say, the motions that I'm involved in, they say, Sujit, you're going to cover Gulf Corporation in India? I didn't know they have a big presence there. And then I have to start explaining the whole story to them. So, yeah, I think there's still a lot of awareness that needs to be built in headquarter locations across. At least in Snowflake, I see two extremes. Either people who are fully clued in know exactly what's going on in India, or people who have no clue what's going on, and they just think it's an office. So there's a big chasm, and I think everybody in this room has an opportunity to really, bridge that gap. And, the next 10 years is golden for us as far as GCCs are concerned.
Absolutely,
It's
yeah.
one of the reasons we are making the investments we are making in India completely disproportionate, as, folks like Google have already started doing. So we are super excited.
No, absolutely. And also, from my perspective, GCCs, actually the relevance becomes even more better and higher when it is not just serving your global customers or whatever, right? When you have business in India, okay? So we, for example, from Harman, we serve all the key OEMs, the Tata, Maruti, and all of them from India, okay? It's a proud thing for us, right? Whatever we do, actually we can see in our cars directly, right? Instead of only your Mercedes and whatever. So, yeah, there is value. Others can see and enjoy. If the value can also be enjoyed within India, and that's business, then that's like, as they say in Hindi, "Sone pe suhaga," whatever, right? So that's where it is.
Yeah, and I think there's a chance to make it fun for your employees as well, right? And just picking up from the topic that mentioned earlier, gamification and
exactly.
things like hackathons. Not just for the sake of hackathon, but pick actual business problems you want to solve within the organization. Run a hackathon, make it work, see it to the end.
Yep.
Incorporate it into the business and see the benefit. And then in the meanwhile, have some fun doing it, reward people, recognition. I think that's super powerful.
Good.
I will just talk on a very different note. All the conversations which I had, almost, not all, did talk about the size of the team I manage or the size of the shared service center here in India. While size is very important, we provide employment to 1.9 million, somebody said in the morning, around 2 million people. So the size is important. We don't want unemployment in India. But the dialogue between us also has to move to the impact and not the size. Because we like managing large teams, and that's an Indian nature, that we like to say, oh, we have 10,000 people in our center. We have 5,000 people in our center. We treat our success equal to the size of the team. We should actually be focusing on the impact which we create, even if it is a small team. That's the change if we bring in. I'm assuming there are a lot of GCC heads and third-party heads here. If that's the change which we bring in our dialogue, we bring that change in our teams, and we bring the change in our HQ, that we are not seen as a labor arbitrage place, but a value arbitrage place. It's just a dialogue, but sometimes the dialogue makes a difference. I'm not able to remember Amir Khan in 3 Idiots exactly, but he said, don't follow after money, but follow after wisdom, something like that. No, what was it? Does anybody remember? But just meaning on that don't follow on the size of the team. Excellence, yeah.
Follow excellence.
Yeah, don't be under that I need 10,000 people reporting to me, 7,000 people reporting to me. It's the impact. It's the excellence. It's what we bring to the table. It's going to shift the dial of GCC, and probably it's not a golf competition committee anymore then.
Some
Lovely.
great
So,
conversations on stage. Sorry, please.
I just want to once again thank these folks because I was like a school teacher chasing them. I mean, like I said, I have never done moderation before. I used to only answer questions. So this time I had to play the role of a school teacher and they were very obedient students. So very nice. Thank you so much, guys. One round of applause for them, please.